Let those words sink in. Because here's the truth, motivation fades. It's like a spark that burns bright and then disappears. It's temporary. It comes and goes like the weather. And if you're relying on it, you'll never last. But discipline is different. Discipline stays. Discipline shows up when you don't feel like it. Discipline carries you when you're tired, when you're broken, when you're ready to quit. This isn't just a motivational speech. This is a challenge. A call for you to rise above every excuse, take back control of your life, and start owning everything, your choices, your struggles, and your future. Pain. We all know it. We've all lived it. And whether you admit it or not, it has shaped who you are right now. For some of you, pain came in the form of loss. The day you stood at a funeral and realized nothing would ever be the same. For others, it came through betrayal, a relationship you trusted that shattered into pieces. And for many, pain came silently in those long nights where nobody saw the tears, where nobody knew you were holding on by just a thread. But let me ask you something. What if pain isn't the enemy? What if it's the very tool you've been given to rise higher than you ever thought possible? This is where most people get stuck. They see pain as punishment. They see struggle as a curse. They say, why me? They bury themselves in bitterness, anger, and regret. But the truth, the raw, undeniable truth, is this pain can either be the wall that traps you or the stone you step on to climb higher. This isn't just some feel-good inspirational talk. It's the reality of every great comeback story. Look at the lives of the strongest people you admire. Not one of them got there without pain. Not one of them built discipline, resilience, or greatness without being tested in the fire. Take Jocko Willink, a Navy SEAL commander and one of the most respected motivational speakers of our time. His philosophy is summed up in 2 words: extreme ownership. That means stop pointing fingers, stop making excuses, own the pain, own the failure, own the setback, and then turn it into fuel. Jocko once said, didn't get what you wanted? Good, you learned. Things didn't go your way? Good. You got stronger? That's not just a quote. That's a way of living. So let me turn this back to you. Think about your life right now. Think about the pain that's holding you hostage. Maybe it's the job you lost. Maybe it's the family you broke apart. Maybe it's the dream you gave up on years ago because someone told you that you weren't good enough. That pain has been heavy, hasn't it? You've carried it for so long it feels like it defines you. But here's the revelation: that pain is not your identity. That pain is your classroom. It's your teacher. And what do teachers do? They prepare you. They push you. They demand more from you than you think you can give. Pain is the same way. When you walk through fire, you don't come out weaker. You come out forged, stronger, sharper. Ready? But here's the catch. You have to choose it. You have to make the decision: I will not let this pain bury me. I will let it build me, because pain doesn't automatically turn into growth. Some people let it make them bitter. They sit in anger for years. They let the world owe them something, and life passes them by. But those who rise, those who truly embody extreme ownership, are the ones who look pain in the eye and say, you don't control me. I control what I do with you. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine 2 people lose the exact same job. One says, I knew it. I'm worthless. I'll never get another chance. They sink deeper and deeper into defeat until it swallows them whole. The other one says, all right, this hurts. This is not what I wanted, but good. Now I've got the chance to reinvent myself. Now I've got the time to learn a new skill. Now I've got fuel to push harder than I ever have before. Same pain. 2 different outcomes. Which one are you? See, the reason motivational speeches and inspirational talks work isn't because someone gives you magical words. It's because they remind you of what you already know deep down, that you are stronger than your pain, that you've been through worse than this before, that inside of you is a level of grit, courage, and resilience you haven't even tapped yet. And I want to remind you, there was a time in your life when you thought you couldn't make it. Think back. Maybe it was 5 years ago, maybe 10. Maybe last month you thought, this is it. I can't survive this one. And yet here you are, still breathing, still fighting, still listening. That means your track record for surviving pain is 100%, 100%. You've made it through everything you thought you couldn't. That's not weakness. That's power. But the next level is this: stop just surviving pain and start using it. Use it as fuel. Use it as a mirror. Use it as a reminder of how badly you want to grow. Because when you do, every struggle becomes a stepping stone. Every failure becomes a lesson. Every heartbreak becomes a redirection towards something better. Let me give you an example. When a seed is planted in the ground, it doesn't bloom in comfort. First, it's buried in darkness. It's pressed under dirt, crushed by weight. But inside that pressure, inside that struggle, the seed breaks open. And only then does it rise. That's you. You've been buried, crushed, pressed down. But maybe you're not buried to die. Maybe you're planted to rise. So the question isn't, why did this happen to me? The real question is, what can I build from this? Pain can take away things, yes, but it can also give. It can give you empathy for others who suffer. It can give you clarity on what really matters. It can give you fuel to fight for the life you want instead of drifting through the life you settle for. And I know some of you are thinking, you don't understand my pain. You don't know what I've lost. You're right. I don't. But I know this someone somewhere has faced something worse, and they chose to rise anyway, which means you can too, because the power isn't in the pain, the power is in the choice. Let me close this part with a challenge. Tonight, when you're alone, ask yourself, am I letting this pain define me or refine me? Am I using it to build excuses or to build strength? And if the answer is not what you want it to be, then tomorrow. Not next week, not someday, tomorrow, take one action, one disciplined step forward. It doesn't matter how small, send the email, go for the walk, apologize, start over. Because every time you turn pain into action, you turn weakness into strength. And if you don't believe me, believe this truth that's been proven through every great story of human resilience. The strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire. You are being forged right now. And if you choose discipline over motivation, if you choose ownership over excuses, then this pain you're living through won't be the end of your story. It will be the beginning of your comeback. There is something fascinating about the human spirit. When everything is going well, when life feels easy, we think we're strong. But real strength is never revealed in comfort. It's uncovered in those moments when you are flat on your back. When every voice in your head tells you it's over, when every reason to quit seems louder than your will to keep going. And yet, somehow, someway deep inside of you, there's a spark that refuses to die. That spark is resilience. Resilience isn't about being unshakable. It's not about pretending you're invincible or that pain doesn't exist. Resilience is about the ability to bend without breaking, to stumble without staying down, to be cracked but never shattered. It's the psychology of survival, the science of hope, the mindset that whispers, not today, not like this, I'm not done yet. But here's the paradox. Resilience rarely shows up in our strongest moments. It shows up in our weakest. Think about that. It's not when you're winning, not when you're celebrated, not when everything is lining up the way you hoped. It's when your back is against the wall, when the doors are slammed shut, when you feel like you've got nothing left. That's when resilience knocks on the door of your soul and says you're stronger than you think. So why is that? Why does the human mind find its strength when it feels weakest? The answer lies in pressures. Just like a muscle doesn't grow without tension, your spirit doesn't grow without trials. When life takes away your safety net, your mind has no choice but to adapt, to fight, to dig into reserves you didn't even know you had. That's why some of the most powerful motivational speeches and inspirational talks are born from pain, not success. They come from people who were forced into the fire, and instead of burning out, they became forged steel. But I want to make this personal. Think about your own story. Think about the moment you thought you couldn't take one more step, but you did anyway. Maybe it was dragging yourself out of bed when depression told you to stay down. Maybe it was working 3 jobs just to keep food on the table. Maybe it was facing a diagnosis or walking away from a toxic relationship. In that moment, you felt weak, but by getting through it, you proved something to yourself. You're tougher than you realized. Jocko Willink, a man who has taught countless people about discipline and ownership, puts it simply, discipline equals freedom. And resilience is built the exact same way. You don't wait for resilience to magically appear. You train it. You build it through small acts of discipline, through choosing action over excuses, through standing back up one more time than you fall. The old version of you, the one that quits when things get hard, the one that looks for motivation before taking action, that version is weak because it relies on emotion. But the future you, the resilient you, doesn't care about how you feel. That version says, I don't need to feel like it. I just need to do it. That's the secret of resilience. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't negotiate with weakness. It just moves forward. Now, let me ask you a question. How many times in your life have you underestimated yourself? How many times did you think there's no way I can handle this, only to look back later and realize you did? That's the hidden gift of struggle. It teaches you that you are far more capable than you ever believed. And once you know that, once you've tasted the truth that you are stronger than your pain, you carry that knowledge with you into every battle. Resilience also changes the way you see failure. Most people treat failure as the end, but resilient people treat it as information. They say, this didn't work. Good. Now I know what to fix. Now I know how to adjust. That shift in perspective is life changing because suddenly nothing can truly break you. You either succeed or you learn, and both of those outcomes move you forward. But let me warn you, resilience isn't built by reading quotes or watching videos. It's built in the trenches of your life. It's built when nobody's watching, when there's no applause, when you're left with nothing but your own thoughts and your own choices. It's built when you refuse to give up on yourself, even when everyone else already has. And maybe right now you're in that place. Maybe you feel like you're barely holding on, like life has hit you harder than ever before. Let me tell you something that may surprise you. This moment, this weakness, might just be the birthplace of your greatest strength. Because resilience isn't found when you're confident. It's found when you're scared. It's not found when you have answers. It's found when you're searching in the dark, desperate for a way forward, and you choose to keep moving anyway. That's what makes resilience so powerful. It transforms weakness into a weapon. It takes your scars and turns them into stories. It takes your doubts and turns them into determination. It doesn't erase the struggle, but it redefines it. I know someone listening right now is asking, but how? How do I build resilience when I feel broken? The answer is simple, but not easy. You start small. You do the next right thing. Not the whole journey, not the entire mountain, just the next step. And when that step feels impossible, you take it anyway. Because resilience isn't about giant leaps. It's about refusing to stop. The psychology of resilience is this: your mind will always try to convince you that you're weaker than you are. It will always try to protect you from discomfort, from risk, from failure. But if you can train your mind to embrace discomfort instead of avoid it, to see risk as growth and to treat failure as feedback, you become unstoppable. That's the resilient mindset. And once you live from that place, everything changes. Your relationships shift because you stop breaking at the first sign of conflict. Your dreams shift because you stop quitting when things get hard. Your identity shifts because you no longer see yourself as fragile. You see yourself as strong, adaptable, and unbreakable. That's why resilience is more than survival. It's transformation. It's the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. And it's the reason why the weakest moments of your life are not the end. They are the very moments that can unlock your destiny. So let me leave you with this. The next time you feel like you can't go on, remember this truth: you've already survived every hardest day of your life so far. Your track record is perfect. You are undefeated when it comes to making it through pain. That's proof that resilience is already inside you. The only question now is, will you keep using it? Will you embrace it as your weapon? Or will you let weakness win? The choice, as always, is yours. But if you choose resilience, if you choose discipline over motivation, then no matter how weak you feel today, you'll look back tomorrow and realize you were building strength all along. Relationships, they're the threads that hold our lives together. They're the places where we give and receive love, trust, and connection. But here's the truth many people avoid saying out loud: relationships can also be the deepest source of pain. Sometimes the wounds don't come from strangers. They come from the people closest to us, the ones we trusted most. A harsh word, a betrayal, a broken promise. And just like that, something that once gave us strength now feels like it has left us broken. But healing, as hard as it is, begins with ownership. It begins with the courage to look in the mirror and say, this is my life, my choices, my responsibility. That's not about taking blame for everything. That's about claiming power over your story. Jocko Willink, the Navy SEAL who made the concept of extreme ownership famous, doesn't sugarcoat it. He teaches that when you own everything in your life, the good and the bad, you gain control. And in relationships, that control is the starting point of rebuilding. So let's be real for a moment. Maybe you've hurt someone you love. Maybe you said things in anger that cut deeper than you realized. Maybe your silence created a distance that now feels impossible to bridge. Or maybe you've been on the other side of it, abandoned, dismissed, taken for granted, and now you're carrying the weight of resentment like a stone in your chest. Either way, the wound is there. The trust is damaged. The balance is gone. The easy option is to run, to close off your heart, to tell yourself, I don't need anyone. But here's the paradox. Shutting down never heals. It only hardens. And life wasn't meant to be lived behind walls of self-protection. Healing begins when you stop hiding from the pain and face it head on. That might mean picking up the phone and apologizing when your pride wants to stay silent. It might mean forgiving someone, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Forgiveness isn't about letting the other person off the hook. It's about setting yourself free from carrying poison that was never meant to stay in your system. But let's go even deeper. Healing isn't just about rebuilding trust with others. It's about rebuilding trust with yourself. Because here's what happens in broken relationships. You start to doubt your own worth. You start to ask, what's wrong with me? Why wasn't I enough? Why did I allow myself to get hurt like this? Those questions can trap you in shame, but the truth is your worth was never tied to someone else's actions. Your value isn't reduced because someone failed to honor it. Healing requires you to reclaim your self-worth, to remind yourself that you are not defined by rejection, betrayal, or failure. You are defined by how you choose to rise. You are defined by your decision to take extreme ownership over your healing instead of waiting for someone else to fix it for you. And yes, rebuilding takes time. It's not instant. Trust, once broken, doesn't come back overnight. Think of it like a wound. If you cut your skin deeply, you don't expect it to heal in a day. It takes patience, it takes care, it might even leave a scar, but that scar is proof that you didn't just endure, you healed. Relationships are no different. But here's the beautiful part. When you take ownership, when you commit to healing, you don't just repair what was broken. You often end up stronger than before. You discover deeper levels of communication, humility, and understanding. The cracks become the places where light enters. And I want you to consider this. What if the pain you feel right now in your relationships isn't meant to destroy you, but to refine you? What if it's meant to strip away pride, ego, and selfishness and replace it with humility, courage, and compassion? What if this is the very season where you learn the most important lesson of all, that love isn't about perfection, it's about ownership? Now, some of you are carrying bitterness. I can feel it. You're saying, you don't know what they did to me. You don't know how much it hurt. And you're right, I don't. But I do know this. I do know this. Anger doesn't punish them. It punishes you. It eats away at your peace. It keeps you trapped in the past. Forgiveness isn't saying, it's okay. Forgiveness is saying, I will not let this wound control me anymore. That's the first step toward emotional balance. But let's flip it around. What about the times you were the one who caused the damage? That's often even harder to face because guilt can be a heavy chain. You replay the mistakes in your head. You drown in regret. You tell yourself you don't deserve a second chance. But hear me, you are not your mistakes. Yes, you must own them. Yes, you must take responsibility. But that doesn't mean you're condemned to stay there. The fact that you feel the weight of regret means you have the heart to change. And change is possible if you choose it. Imagine for a moment the version of you 5 years from now. Do you want that version to still be chained by the bitterness and regret you're carrying today? Or do you want that version to be free to love fully, to trust wisely, to stand with integrity? That future version depends on the choices you make now. And one choice at a time, you can rebuild trust. You can restore balance. You can heal. This is why I keep coming back to ownership, because without it, you stay stuck. Without it, you stay the victim. But when you take ownership, when you say, I can't control what they did, but I can control what I do next, you take your power back. That is how healing begins. That is how relationships mend. That is how self-worth is restored. And maybe that's what this motivational speech is meant to remind you, that healing isn't about waiting for someone else to change. It's about stepping into your own strength, owning your role, and choosing love even when it's difficult. So here's my challenge to you tonight, write down one relationship in your life that needs healing. Maybe it's with a partner, a friend, a parent, or maybe it's with yourself. And then write one step you can take to begin rebuilding trust. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be a phone call, an apology, a journal entry, even a prayer. But take the step, because healing doesn't happen by accident. It happens by ownership. And when you do this, when you choose ownership, something amazing happens. You stop being defined by your wounds. You become defined by your healing. You stop being the one who was hurt and you become the one who rose. That's where emotional balance is born. That's where self-worth, where their self-worth is reborn. And that's where relationships with yourself and with life itself begin again. The truth is simple. Life doesn't wait for you. It doesn't slow down just because you're tired, hurt, or discouraged. It doesn't pause to let you catch your breath. Life keeps moving. And if you're not willing to take control, if you're not willing to own it, life will own you. That's why the path forward begins and ends with extreme ownership. So let's be clear about what that means. Extreme ownership is not about controlling everything in your life. Because you can't control other people. You can't control every outcome. You can't control every storm that shows up on your path. What you can control is how you respond. You can control whether you make excuses or take responsibility. You can control whether you wait for motivation or build discipline. And that choice, your choice, determines the rest of your life. Jocko Willink, the man who brought this philosophy into the world, lived it on the battlefield where mistakes cost lives. But it doesn't just apply to war. It applies to your everyday battles, the fight for your health, the fight for your relationships, the fight for your dreams, the fight for your identity. Jocko says, there are no bad teams, only bad leaders. And that doesn't just mean teams in combat. It means your life. If your life isn't where you want it to be, the leader of that life is you. And the only way forward is to take ownership. So let's contrast the two paths you face. The old you waits for motivation. The old you says, I'll start when I feel like it. I'll get up early when I'm inspired. I'll try again when life gives me a sign. But that person stays stuck because motivation fades. Waiting for it is like waiting for the sun on a rainy day. It's never consistent. The future you, the you that lives in extreme ownership, doesn't wait. That person builds discipline. That person wakes up not because they feel like it, but because they said they would. That person shows up to the hard conversations, the hard workouts, the hard responsibilities, because that's who they are. That person doesn't hope life changes. They change life. And yes, it's hard. Let's not sugarcoat it. Ownership is not comfortable. It's easier to point fingers. It's easier to say, if they respected me more, if my boss gave me a chance, if life had been kinder, I'd be further ahead. It's easier to blame your past, your upbringing, your circumstances. But ownership doesn't ask for easy. Ownership asks for honesty. It asks you to look in the mirror and admit, the results I have in my life right now are the results of my decisions. That's a brutal truth. But it's also the most freeing, because if your decisions got you here, your decisions can take you somewhere new. Think about it. Every excuse you make puts your future in someone else's hands. Every time you blame, you give away your power. But every time you own it, you take that power back. And the more ownership you take, the freer you become. That's why discipline equals freedom. It's not a cliche, it's a fact. When you have the discipline to take responsibility for your choices, you gain the freedom to create the life you want. Now let me ask you a hard question. What's the area of your life where you've been avoiding ownership? Be honest with yourself. Is it your health? You tell yourself you don't have time to eat better, to exercise, to take care of your body. Is it your relationships? You blame them for the distance, the arguments, the disconnection. But deep down, you know there are words you need to say, changes you need to make. Or is it your purpose? You've been talking about that dream, that business, that passion for years, but you haven't acted because you're waiting for the right time. The right time doesn't exist. Ownership exists. Extreme ownership is the path forward because it puts the steering wheel back in your hands. It forces you to stop being a passenger in your own life. Yes, there will still be traffic. Yes, there will still be storms, but the driver controls the direction. And as long as you're willing to keep steering, to keep moving forward, you'll get where you're meant to go. I know some of you are listening right now and thinking, but I've messed up too much. I've failed too many times. I've hurt too many people. It's too late for me to take ownership now. And to you, I say this, it is never too late. Ownership is not about the past. It's about the present. You can't rewrite what's already happened, but you can decide what happens next. You can decide today to be the turning point. You can decide that the old version of you dies here and the future version begins now. Imagine standing 5 years from now, looking back on this very moment. What do you want to remember? Do you want to remember that you stayed the same, making the same excuses, living the same cycle of regret? Or do you want to remember that this was the day you took back your life? This was the day you stopped waiting and started owning. This was the day you chose discipline over motivation. That choice belongs to you. The path forward is not complicated. It's actually very simple. Wake up tomorrow and take one action that aligns with ownership. Not 100, just one. If you've been avoiding your health, go for a walk. If you've been avoiding a conversation, pick up the phone. If you've been avoiding your purpose, write down one step you can take today. Don't wait for it to be perfect. Ownership is about progress, not perfection, and every small act of ownership compounds. It builds momentum. It creates identity, and soon you stop trying to take ownership, you become ownership. And here's the final truth I need you to hear. Life will not hand you freedom. Life will not hand you peace. Life will not hand you success. It will hand you challenges. It will hand you setbacks. It will hand you pain. But if you meet all of it with ownership, if you refuse to play the victim, if you refuse to wait for motivation and instead live with discipline, there is nothing life can throw at you that you cannot overcome. So the path forward is clear. No more excuses, no more waiting, no more blaming. Own your health, own your relationships, own your choices, own your future, because the moment you do, you stop being powerless, you stop drifting, you start living. That is extreme ownership, and that is the path forward. So here's my challenge to you. Stop waiting for motivation. Build discipline. Own your struggles. Transform your pain into power. Now it's your turn. Share your journey in the comments. What's the struggle you're ready to own today? Because your story might be the very thing someone else needs to hear. And if this inspirational talk sparks something inside you, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share and subscribe to Soul Vibe, where motivation meets soul. Together, we're not just building a community, we're building a movement of strength, healing, and second chances. And before you go, I want to hear from you. What motivational themes, struggles, or challenges do you want us to cover next? Because your voice matters here. This isn't just my channel, it's ours.